Most tax pros leave a message.
It's Jane. I'm moving on to a TurboTax expert who beat your price. Adam Devine, tell him how I feel.
Hey, tax pro, she's been thinking twice. Best believe TurboTax will beat your price. This is a tax break.
Switch to a TurboTax Live expert and we'll beat what you paid your pro last tax season. Make the switch at TurboTax.com/beatyourprice. TurboTax full service only. Sign up by 12/20/2024 and file by 4/1/2025. Full details at TurboTax.com/beatyourprice.
With Uber Reserve, you can book your Uber ride in advance, 90 days in advance. Perfect for all you forward thinkers and planning gurus. Reserve your Uber ride up to 90 days in advance. Uber Reserve. See Uber app for details.
1,
2,
3,
4.
Monster movie.
Fun time, go! Monster movie.
Fun time, go. Monster
Movie.
Fun time.
Go!
Monster movie. Fun time, go.
With Precious D and Honeybee.
Fun time, go!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends and neighbors, welcome back to Monster Movie Fun Time Go. 31 Days of the Dead. Day 12. I am your host, Precious D, and my guest today is Aaron Ray Ballard, author of the award-winning book, All the Monsters Are Here. Welcome back to the show, Ray.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem. Today's movie we are discussing is Night of the Comet from 1984, which technically has zombies in it.
Yes.
Or zombie-like things. Things that are referred to as zombies.
Yes.
It's from 84. Let me see here. Let me get a few stats. If you haven't seen it, folks, what the hell's wrong with you? But
Exactly.
if you haven't seen it, you want to watch it, it is streaming on Pluto, and it's also on Hoopla, which is one of those library streaming services. So if you got a library card, check and see if your local library is connected to Hoopla, because then you can watch it without ads. It has ads on Pluto.
It's also on Tubi.
It's on Tubi also? Okay. My
Yes.
browser results didn't show that, but lots of things that are on one of those are also on the other. Let's see. Let's do a few stats before we get into it. It is directed by Tom Eberhardt and written by Tom Eberhardt. That's Tom with an H. Fuck you, Tom. It's 95 minutes. The budget was $700,000 and the box office was $14.4 million. Well done.
Mm-hmm.
The cast is Catherine Mary Stewart as Reggie, Kelly Maroney as Sam, Robert Beltran from Star Trek Voyager as Hector Gomez, Sharon Farrell as Doris, that's the stepmom, Mary Woronov as Audrey White, Jeffrey Lewis as Dr. Carter, Peter Fox as Dr. Wilson, John Acorn as Oscar. It's not spelled like the tree, like the thing off the tree. Michael Bowen as Larry Dupree, Devin Erickson as Minder, Lisa Leung as Davenport, Janice Kawai as Sarah, that's the little girl, Chance Boyer as Brian, that's the little boy, Ivan E. Roth as Willie, Dick Rude as Chris Penderson, Mark Popple as Danny Mason Keener, aka DMK, and Stanley Brock as Mel. That's the movie theater manager.
Yeah.
Ray, what do you think of Night of the Comet?
I'm a teenager of the 80s, and so therefore, at that time, it seemed like there were a lot of really cool movies coming out, and this was one of them.
Yeah.
So I watched it on cable a billion times. I actually went and saw it at the movie theater because I had a huge crush on the actresses of the movie. Ended up loving the movie. And again, watched it. I don't know. It came out like 400 times. I watched it every time.
Yeah. I don't think I saw it in the theater, but I definitely saw it on probably HBO multiple times.
I love the movie. I don't just have to have a crush on the actresses, but I love the movie. There's a lot of imagination in it. I know it had a very small budget, but they did a lot with it, and it's a great story. I think it's a great story.
Yeah. It's the second movie we've watched this holiday season that seems to me very inspired by Day of the Triffids, because it's another situation where most of the world has seen this event occur, but our heroes were isolated for one reason or another, so they did not watch the comet go by. This comet only comes by, every 60 million years? 65 million years, something like that. And the last time it came by, just coincidentally, is when the dinosaurs were wiped out. And the Earth is going to pass through the tail of the comet, and there's going to be a big meteor display because of that. And so everybody is going outside to watch it. And most of the people who watch it get turned to dust, to red dust. And if you were slightly isolated, you are going to slowly turn into red dust, but you're going to turn into a comet zombie first. And if you were in some kind of a steel box of some kind, like a garden shed or the back of a tractor trailer truck thing, 18-wheeler truck,
movie theater,
or
projection room.
Yeah, for some reason, the movie theater projection booth that the main girl is in is lined with steel. There's a whole conversation about whether or not Superman can see through steel, and she is correct. It's lead that he cannot see through.
Yes.
Did you notice the movie poster on the door of the projection booth?
Which one was it?
It was red dust.
Oh, okay.
So on the door that leads outside of the theater, there's a movie poster. So this girl works at the theater. I don't know why she hasn't been fired.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Because they're having a big midnight screening of It Came from Outer Space, I think, as part of the citywide Comet celebrations, and she's supposed to be working, and she's just playing this video game.
Exactly.
And the boss keeps telling her to get to work, and she's like, in a second. I'm like, why? From what he says, this is not the first time this has happened. And it's not clear why he has not fired her already. It might just be
he even knows
that
what she's up to.
Nobody else wants to work there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes. He knows.
He even knows.
He knows that she's getting up to hanky panky on the clock. They never say this, but my guess is that she must be a relative or something.
Maybe
that's the only excuse for not firing her.
And let me add,
niece
that
or
actor
cousin
that played the boss. The actor that played the boss did a really good job.
Yes,
very small role. He did a really
Stanley
good job
Brock,
playing the characters.
Yes, yeah. Stanley Brock, he's been in a million things. You've seen him. As soon as you see his face, you know. I couldn't name one of the things he's been in, but he's been in a lot of stuff, and you've seen him. He's one of those guys. But we get this setup that sort of pays off at the end, but it doesn't mean anything. She has all the high scores on the video game Tempest. And in those days, kids, if you got the high score on an arcade machine, you could enter your initials. And usually it was like the top 10 people that were listed. And somebody has taken the top 6 spot. And she's mad about this. Somebody with the initials DMK has a number 6 high score. She only gets number 3 at this moment, but she has all the rest of the top 10 scores. So she's pretty pissed off about that. And later in the movie, she's very happy that she knocks him off the board. Although that's not correct. Shouldn't he have just dropped down one spot instead of her taking over the 6th spot? Yeah. But they make it seem as if she's just replaced him at number 6. Because we're going to nitpick that shit. That's not how that works, kids.
So we have to go in and get 4 higher scores. She would have had to go in and get a 4 more high scores to knock him out of the top 10. But for brevity,
you got to bump him all the way down.
Just had to replace him.
Yeah. So Reggie and Sam are 2 sisters. They're living with their stepmother. Their father is overseas, and the stepmother's a real bitch, but she ends up turned to dust. Oh, I was saying that there's a poster for an old movie called Red Dust on the door that leads outside, and that is not an accident because almost everybody has been turned into red dust. So that's the kind of attention to detail that you can look forward to in this movie.
Yeah.
They've got no budget, but they have a good script and attention to detail, and that is what's important. So, yeah, the people are turning into zombies or slowly turning into zombies depending on how exposed they were to whatever it was, the radiation, I guess, from the comet.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And the girl, and they go to the radio station where somebody appears to be still alive and broadcasting, but he's not. It's a recording. And they meet Chakotay from Star Trek Voyager.
Who seems like the last man on Earth, left on Earth.
Yes, he might be the last man on Earth, and there's a little bit of sibling rivalry because the older sister is always stealing every boy the younger sister is interested in. So it was not my intention to go through the entire plot of this movie. Usually these Halloween episodes are a little bit shorter. We just talk about the things we liked and anything we didn't like. So what were your favorite parts of the movie that stood out to you?
I like the fact that they weren't helpless. The girls, they were teenagers. One's 18, one's 16.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't helpless. Their father was a soldier. It's kind of hinted that he's a mercenary, special forces type guy. And he's taught them how to take care of themselves. So they know how to take care of themselves, they know how to fight, and they know how to shoot weapons. So they're sort of prepared. And I like that.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. They can take care of themselves. And the other thing I liked was their relationship. The actors are really good. They're really, even though they look nothing alike, they really did come across as sisters. And you have one that's probably more, I don't want to call her sophisticated or smarter, but just more world-wise, and the other one is a little bit sheltered and simple, but not, I don't want to use those words, but just the other one's more world-weary already, and the other one is kind of has been taken care of, and I like how they both adapt in their own ways to what has happened.
Yes. Well, I read that Sam was actually the inspiration for Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Because she runs around in a cheerleader outfit.
Being
basically.
Sort of... Yeah, she runs around in her cheerleader outfit, and she just has this kind of blasé attitude towards, oh, well, the world's ended, but I'm not going to be too traumatized by it, although she does have some dreams that indicate she's traumatized. But just sort of her teenage casual attitude of, okay, there's a zombie, I'm going to shoot it. And how she's just a ditzy cheerleader, but she can also kick ass is the inspiration for Buffy, which in the original movie was much more the joke.
Right.
By the time the TV show comes along, that whole I'm just a dumb cheerleader thing was pushed to the side. But in the original version of Buffy, her name was part of the joke because Buffy is not somebody who kicks ass. Now, kids who grew up watching that show, their understanding of the name Buffy is that is the name of someone who kicks ass, not that that's the name of a dumb cheerleader.
And I like how they adapt quickly. They adapt quickly to this new world. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I also like at the end their attempt that the civilization the burden of civilization lies on us now.
Mm-hmm.
To, take the time to dress up and to wait for the crosswalk. Although how the power is still going, I don't know.
Right.
They never have to deal with the issue of lack of power or water during this movie. Yeah. So something is set on automatic.
And there is some danger in the movie that the characters do come across some zombies every once in a while. The older Reggie runs across the zombie that's in the alley that ate, spoiler alert, ate someone she knows. And then later on, Hector runs across that little boy. And so they do run into danger, and not only from zombies, but from scientists who are slowly turning into zombies who are trying to harvest their blood for a cure. Or are they,
I really like
harvest it for...
I really like how they they're going to try and make a serum. They think because they were unaffected that they can make a serum out of it. But they also seem to be using it to just temporarily stave off the effects. So there's this group of scientists that are part of some kind of think tank, and it's never fully explained, but it seems like they're maybe not the government. That there's some kind of private organization, but they all have little jumpsuits with emblems and belts. But they do a fun kind of switch where one of the scientists, Audrey White, seems like she's the asshole because she doesn't want to bring anybody new. They've heard the girls talking over the radio station, and they try to call them to say, hey, we're scientists, we're going to come get you. And Dr. White is like, no, we shouldn't be bringing anybody new here. And it sounds like she's just being an asshole who doesn't want to share their resources or bring in we're safe here and I don't want to bring anybody else in. But actually she's the good guy because we find out that they're going to basically kill these people's brains and keep them alive, make them brain dead and just put them in a coma or whatever. And so they can keep harvesting their blood. So she thinks that's wrong and doesn't want to bring anybody else. They've already brought in some people and she doesn't want to bring in any more.
Yeah, including some children,
she's
by the way.
been objecting to this the whole time. Yes,
right,
including children. So we find out at one point that no, she's actually trying to protect them, and that's a nice simple twist.
I also love the scene where they go to the mall, where they go because what are teenage girls going to do? They're the only ones left on Earth.
Yeah.
So they decide to go to the mall and do some shopping. And I love what happens.
Yeah.
I love that line where they run across these guys in the mall, and they're nuts, homicidal. And at one point, something happens, and one of the girls yells out, "You're crazy!" And one of my favorite lines in any movie is, "I'm not crazy. I just don't give a fuck." I love that line.
Yes. I did find that whole part a little weird, though, because I'm like, why are these guys so determined to kill these girls? It's not a case where they want to capture them and do inappropriate, unpleasant, illegal things to them. They just want to kill them. And the girls aren't zombies. It's just like, hey, this is they were stock boys and now they're in charge of them all. And he just seems to want to kill them because they're not stock boys. Yeah. But we find out when he takes his sunglasses off that he is starting to change. So that's probably the real reason, is just his brain he is crazy. His brain is starting to go. Yeah. So they're just lashing out violently because that's what happens when you begin to dehydrate from comet radiation.
And I also love that there's a payoff to the whole initials on the video game.
Yeah.
In the movie.
I thought that it was more obvious. In my mind, it was more obvious, but it's not. So there's a whole thing throughout the movie of Sam, the younger sister. Basically, there's only one guy left on Earth, and he likes my sister, and I'm out of luck. And then at the end, when they're having their fight about don't cross against the light, this car comes screeching out of nowhere and nearly runs her over. And he stops, and there's a handsome young boy in there who's like, I'm sorry, you shouldn't have been crossing against the light. And this is the guy. This is they don't underline it that much, but he wants to take her for a drive, and they ask his name, and he says, I'm Danny Mason Keener. And then as he drives off, we see that the initials on his vanity plate are DMK, the guy presumably from the video game. Yeah. But in my mind, the older sister had seen the letters and commented on it, but she doesn't. We're just supposed to remember that from the beginning of the movie.
Right.
So,
and there really isn't anything about the movie I didn't like. You asked before things you like, things you didn't like. There's really nothing about the movie I don't like.
Yeah, me either. I mean, I could find things to nitpick, like what we said about replacing the name on the video game.
Right.
And also the kid says he's got 23 cars, but he happens to be driving the one with his initials on the license plate.
Yeah.
Because I thought he has 23 cars because he's just been collecting them because the world ended. But maybe he was rich before and already had 23 cars. They all say DMK on the plate. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? But that's just, if I'm forced to look for things I don't like, I guess I could focus on that. But it's not important at all. It doesn't.
I am amazed at this movie. I know it's very low budget, but they had to somehow close down L.A. to shoot some of that stuff, and that's not an easy thing.
Yeah. Well, some of it was probably very early in the morning. I don't know what kind of permits. I mean, because movies do that; they get permits to close things down, but it's probably not cheap. Those look like big streets, not just your little studio backlot street. Those look like real, actual streets. So I don't know how they did that. There are other things that are really cheap, like the red sky looks like they just put a gel in front of the camera, because sometimes it's making things in the foreground red that should not be red.
Yeah.
So, but it's fine. The effects are cheap, but I've said this a couple of times this season that it's not that important that your effects be that great as long as you got a good script.
Exactly.
That is more important than blowing a lot of money on, even if the acting isn't that great, as if the script is good enough. But not having a good script, it doesn't matter how much you spend on effects or how good the actors are. If the script sucks, your movie's going to suck. Looking at you, Transformers.
And this film had a really good script.
Let's see. I have a few notes here, like all of Reggie's shirts are side button bib shirts.
Yeah, I noticed that.
All of her own shirts. Later on, she has some that aren't like that, but those are ones she's picked up along the way. So she's wearing these very 80s button up the side shirts, and I love them.
They're great.
Our good guy scientist, is wearing leg warmers over top of her jumpsuit at one point.
And
it's not part of the uniform. She's the only one wearing them.
That actress is Mary Warnock, and her and her husband,
yes,
Paul Bartel, they were in a lot of movies in the 80s, and he directed a movie called My Dinner with Andre, and she's a great actress.
Did he direct that?
He was really good too. I thought he directed it. He may not have. I'm almost positive he did, but maybe I'm wrong.
You're thinking of Eating Raoul.
I'm sorry. Eating Raoul is the one that he directed.
Eating Raoul.
Yeah, Eating Raoul.
Yes. Now, I thought they were married, but when I was looking it up the other day, they were just friends who often played a married couple.
Okay. I may have thought they were married. Wow.
I had always thought I had read or heard that they were a married couple.
That's what I thought.
But according to Wikipedia, they were just friends who were in 17 movies together, often playing husband and wife, but it appears they were not actually husband and wife.
Were they both in Death Race 2000?
A Warhol girl.
What's that? Yeah. Were they both in Death Race 2000? The Corman movie?
Let's see. He directed Death Race. I think she's in it.
So they go way back.
He definitely directed it.
Yeah. She was a Warhol girl. He's a Corman guy.
Yes, she is in it.
Yeah. And so they're both.
Yes, she plays Calamity.
Yeah. They were in a lot of
Calamity
movies
Jane.
in the 80s.
He did Lust in the Dust.
And
That's
also
a divine movie.
Jeffrey Lewis plays one of the scientists, and I always loved Jeffrey Lewis. And most people might know him from the Clint Eastwood orangutan movies, Every Which Way But Loose. But I always thought he was a great actor, and anything he's in, he improves. So it was nice seeing him.
Yeah. I was going to mention him, that he's another one of those guys you've seen in a million things. He's playing the head scientist. So let's see, what else scientist leg warmers. There's a double dream at one point, which that's the part I didn't care for. That is my one complaint.
Oh, okay.
Don't do the double dream. I fucking hate that. That's cheap.
What about the triple dream in American World from London? You didn't like that either?
Oof. Yeah. Nope. Not okay. Not okay.
Really? Okay.
I'm not a big fan of dream sequences that are, it's not clear that it's, sometimes it's clear that it's a dream sequence starting off because it's already weird, but I'm not a big fan of that technique. And waking up twice or even 3 times, to me, that's just a cheap trick. Maybe the first person who ever did it was being clever, but anybody who did it after that, no. I also wrote down Girls Just Want to Have Fun is a cover because I assume of the budget. They couldn't afford to license the Cyndi Lauper version.
Or did they
Terry
have the original?
Holbrook.
Did they have the original when it first came out, and then they had to replace it since then? Because that happens.
It's in the credits. It's in the closing credits. So I don't think it's just been replaced. I think it was always replaced.
Okay.
Because they couldn't get the rights. A long time ago, I read a story. I never found out what the movie was. Some movie wanted to use an Elvis song, and they couldn't afford it. So they just hired an Elvis impersonator to sing the song as close to Elvis as he possibly could, and paid a lot less for it. This woman's not doing an impersonation of Cyndi Lauper, but the arrangement's the same. It's not, an innovative cover. They want us to think it's Cyndi Lauper, but they couldn't afford it. So that's really my only notes that we haven't already discussed. So, Ray, we're using a 5 brains scale this year. So, out of 5 brains, how many brains are you going to rate Night of the Comet?
Can we go 4? I'll go 4. I was going to say 4.5, but I'm going to stick with 4. Because
4?
There's other movies I reserve 5 for. There's great movies I reserve 5 for. So I'm not demeaning this movie in any way, but I'm just going to give it 4 because there's other movies that really deserve that 5 level.
Okay, here's how I approach the scale. 1 is I hated it. 2 is I didn't like it. 3 it was okay. 4 I liked it, and 5 I loved it. So based on that criteria, I think I'm going to have to give it 4.5 because I really liked it. I might even love it
too.
But
I love it.
Yeah, I
Don't
do.
get me wrong. I love it too. It's just that there's certain films I think you got to have some kind of, I don't know the word I'm looking for. I'm having trouble looking for words today, but like movies like The Godfather, Star Wars, Raiders of the Lost Ark, to me those are 5.
Well, yeah.
So I got to have scale, and so therefore,
yeah.
I love the movie,
right?
But I'm only giving it 4.
Yeah. So, well, when you're only working with a scale of 5, it's a sort of each point is kind of broader than if you're working on a 10-point scale or even a 100-point scale. But I'm gonna give it 4.5.
Really good.
So I think that's gonna. Yes, absolutely. Go watch it on streaming if you haven't seen it before. Classic from the 80s. I love these kind of 80s low budget sci-fi movies. This is sort of a sci-fi horror movie, but because it's post-apocalyptic, it seems more like sci-fi than horror. Maybe if there were more zombies, it would be more horror. But anyway, it's a great movie, folks. So go watch it if you have not. But I think that's going to wrap it up for this episode. We'll be back tomorrow with another one in our 31 Days of the Dead. If you like this show, please like and subscribe and rate and review and support us on the Patreon and all of that stuff. And go check out Ray's book. We'll put a link to that in the show notes. It's a collection of horror short stories. You can find it on Amazon. But until next time, I have been Precious D. Remember to keep calm and take shelter in basements. Please don't misuse science. We won't see you, but you will hear us next time on Monster Movie Fun Time Go. You've been listening to Monster Movie Fun Time Go. If you enjoyed the show, please consider rating and reviewing us on your podcasting platform of choice. You can leave us a message and find links to all our things at mmftg.com.